Welcome friends to another r/prorevenge video. Our first story of the day is by prestigious issue 330, Terror Neighbors Make Our Lives Heck, Return the Favor by Getting Them Rated. As we found out that we'd be expecting not one but two kids, we knew we had to move to a real house with more space. At the time, we were still living in a one-bedroom studio, one floor up from the ground floor, with its only entrance being a metal fire escape, stairs. Not ideal for a pregnant woman, let alone to live with two small babies. So we found a privately leased house that was newly renovated and had all the room and a large garden we were looking for. Signed the lease and immediately collected the keys. As the owner drove off, the woman next door comes up to me, immediately demanding we not make much noise before noon, as her boyfriend works nights and sleeps in and a whole bunch of other do's and don'ts. So right off the bat we knew trouble incoming. As the house was fully renovated and not much had to be done, we were like, don't poke the bear. We'll do the things that make noise after noon. We moved in after 2 weeks and the whole street was warm and welcoming. My wife was almost due giving birth to my twin daughters, and some offered help with anything we needed. Real kind people. They also told us about our neighbors. Nobody liked them. He was a big bully and got into arguments with everybody. Also were known as radio pirates, as in illegal broadcasting on radio with all Dutch bangers. This music is just terror on your ears and possibly used on terrorists on black sites, which went alongside them partying Thursday to Sunday till 5 in the morning. Loud music, constant yelling, always drunken, etc. Really something to look forward to when moving in, certainly with 2 babies on the way. The partying began immediately full blast. Real classy from someone demanding quiet when D-Bag needs his beauty sleep. Then one day my father-in-law came to put in new grass. He has his trailer parked at the back of our house, which is public space. Not according to him, though. No, that exact spot where the trailer, full with grass sods, quite heavy stuff, was parked was his spot, and we had to move the trailer. Not going to happen, as I was not planning to walk all the way around the house with the sods. He gets angry right away and demanded me to move it. I told him to go freak himself. I was done with him already then and there. I'm also a ginger, so besides having no soul, I do have a temper, which is always in check until he provoked me repeatedly. Anyone who knows me will tell you that you really had to make an effort for that to happen. We went on working, and end of day comes when my father-in-law wants to leave. He hooks up the trailer and bam! There was D-Bag, telling him off, yelling it's his spot and he better not do this again or else. Mess with me all you want, I can handle it. But what you don't do is threaten my family. I ran outside and told him in no uncertain terms to back off, or he'll be the sorry one. Total bluff on my side. Yes, I have that temper, but I'm not impressively built and have no hidden fighting skills. I do fight dirty. He backs off, father-in-law leaves, and I go inside where I find my wife crying. She got scared of him maybe doing something to her father and/or me, and this is something we don't need right now. Combined with the hormones from being pregnant, and you can paint that picture. So I'm even more pissed, but had to promise not to act on anything. I won't, dear. Not yet, anyway. Time went on without any real incident, and then came the time my wife goes into labor. It didn't go smooth, and we ended up having to deliver with C-section because daughter 2 was almost strangled by the umbilical cord. We had to stay 3 nights, excruciating nights due to a lot of things. Finally, we get to go home. Family had put a giant sign in our front yard welcoming the babies. The sign was already up for a few days prior to coming home, so our friendly neighbors definitely knew about it. But did they give a flying freak? No, they did not. From the first night on, they started to party and broad blasted their terror music. They started at noon and continued until 5 or 6 in the morning. Classy. They also kept going for days, so it wasn't just Thursday to Sunday, it was all week long and the next. So we were broken, hardly slept, one of our daughters suffered from heavy cramps combined with all the noise, and her parents at the end of their wits, so she cried a lot. And then I just had it. I researched some things on radio pirates, the laws and regulations on his large, 5-meter-plus antenna in his backyard, which was illegal in itself, but he used it to illegally broadcast on radio, which meant he had a lot of equipment to do so, which was even more illegal and can even get you jailed. But at the very least, they could seize it all and fine him big time, in the 10 to 45 grand area. Now, I did not immediately turn him in, but instead was looking for another house to lease first. This is because I figured it wouldn't sit well with him, and having a wife and 2 babies in the house alone during the day because I had to go to work. And I hear you guys thinking, why not involve the police? Well, they're utterly useless in cases like this. We called once, and what they did disturbs me to this day. They rang at their doorbell and immediately started off by saying we called them about noise complaints. Yes, you read that right. No protection or whatsoever, just blatantly told them we were the reason they're there. Told them to keep it down, and that was it. They didn't even follow up with us or anything. As you can guess, D-Bag now was even more upset and told me the next day, or yelled over the fence that separates our backyards, that I should really not do that again. A threat, yet again, of which I told the police. I didn't report it the first time as I chalked that up to alpha male and heat of the moment. But without witnesses to corroborate, nothing could be done yet again. Some days later, I walked out the front door and he just stepped out of his car. Came up to me, demanding I cut back some of our ivy that grew on our side of the fence because it tangled in with his giant antenna. He would be gone for some hours, and I could come into his garden to cut back the ivy that grew through on their side. And then a light bulb went on above my head. I told him politely that I would do that immediately. Why? Because that gave me the opportunity to find out the make and model of this antenna to ascertain its signal strength, where the cables go exactly, and what kind of cables they were. Again, to know the signal strength it handled. Also, it gave me a good view on the equipment he had through the window so I could snap some photographs of it. This was the icing on the cake. Because in the meantime, we did manage to find a new home and had already signed the lease, so we would be gone in 2 weeks. Luckily, we only had to paint some walls for the girls' room and furthermore just pack up our things and move them to the other house. So after I trimmed the ivy and collected my evidence, I went online that night to find out the proper channels to report a broadcast pirate and which entity was tasked with catching said pirate. Turned out, I had to call the telecom agency but also the police. Wasn't too happy with the latter, but I remembered I have a nephew that works for the police. Officially his area was immigration, but knew enough colleagues that he could help us, and we could trust not to confront them again saying I was the one that sent them. That was extremely important for our safety when doing what I was doing. So I gave both the agency and the police all the evidence I collected, pointed them to the frequencies he pirated so they could listen in. Then they started a neighborhood investigation, which wasn't really necessary, but this was to cover our butts, to make it look like he got caught by accident because they had an active investigation in our area. You never know what he can learn from legal documents and such. We asked them to wait with the raid. Yes, they raid pirates' houses, preferably in the early hours of the day because of his beauty sleep, rendering him incapable of fleeing or hiding evidence, etc. We moved 2 weeks later, and they raided him 2 days after we moved. All of his equipment, computers, radios, cell phones, and his car were seized. He left in cuffs. His wife/girlfriend did too, for making a big scene and trying to interfere. All of which was live reported to me by one of my ex-neighbors who was equally ecstatic about this. It turned out this wasn't the first time he got caught, but his 3rd time. His car had no insurance on it and his MOT failed. This would normally have no big consequence because he didn't drive it while raided, but they had the guy surveyed on for a week, and that definitely meant he was seen driving it while not having insurance and valid MOT. He was fined somewhere around 30,000 euros, went to jail for 12 weeks, and had everything seized and destroyed, except the car. His girlfriend had to do 40-some hours community service. They had to sell the house, which made for very happy neighbors as they were too over and done with them. Like I said, I do fight, but very dirty. You have to really make an effort for me to get to that point. They did, and suffered. Over a year later, when shopping groceries, I encountered them. With the foulest of looks, if looks could kill, I'd be a smoldering heap of ash, but nothing more than that. So as far as you guys know yourselves, would you say you're a person that gets angry very easily, or does it kind of take a lot to really make you upset? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Girly Sprite. My ETA is treated like a contract written in blood? No more ETA for you. This is a story from when my husband and I weren't married yet, but were living together already. We were young, sometimes petty, and headstrong. So I used to work in a city that was quite far away from where we lived, and it took around 2 hours to get there. I needed to travel by train to get there. The train system where I lived, Netherlands, is quite good, but having a delay of 10 to 45 minutes once a week wasn't unusual. I sometimes worked long days, so I usually gave my husband a heads up on the time I expected to be home. One day was another one of those bad train days where the delays compounded and I was home an hour later than usual. My husband was kinda pissy about it at me, which in turn pissed me off. He told me that if I tell him that I'd be home at a certain time, it was a promise and that I should keep it. I thought he was being unreasonable because I'm no clairvoyant. So I asked him, so even if there's a small chance that some delay comes up, I shouldn't say I'll be home at a certain time? I could see some gears turning in his head, but he'd be darned if he'd admit he was wrong, so he confirmed this. So for a few weeks after that, I gave the most useless ETAs ever. Usually something like, I'll be home between 4 p.m. and 1 a.m. When my husband got pissy about it, I reminded him that I could never be certain of the time. After all, the train could get hit by a comet, or a national power outage could occur. And didn't he say that I shouldn't tell him a time if I wasn't certain? After a few weeks, he relented and admitted he was wrong about it. I think the thing I appreciate most about this story is the simple fact that in the end, they were able to get over it. These kind of petty things always happen in relationships, but the best relationships are the ones that can get past them. It doesn't really matter who's the actual wrong one, if that person can just accept at some point that they were wrong and just get past it on both sides. I feel like it's a good sign that you might have a good future together. And our final story of the day is by Alienator. Forget my birthday? Then I'll do something we said we would do together. A friend and I have met up about once a week to watch movies/series. It started a few months into COVID, just so we would get some social contact. We watched WandaVision every week, for example. When his birthday came around, I asked him about 2 weeks beforehand what he wanted to do and kept bugging him until he had an answer for me. And ultimately, we celebrated together. Well, my birthday was about 1 month later. And according to a mutual friend, she reminded him and our other friends of my upcoming birthday. So, everyone congratulated me except that one friend. I want to clarify that this is not about the birthday per se, it's about the feeling that I'm not important enough to even write down that one date. I can't keep birthdays in mind for crap. That's why I have a calendar on my phone. To make a long story short, I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier without him just because I thought it was petty. We haven't met up for different reasons for a while and decided to wait until all of the episodes were out so we could watch the whole thing at once. Yeah, well, freak that. I feel like I might be a bad friend, but I still have a number of friends from high school that I don't talk to a ton, and I don't think I can even recall most of their birthdays. If I remember or a reminder does pop up around that time, of course I'll shoot them some kind of message and wishing them a happy birthday, but I feel like at some level in adulthood, as far as just friends go, it's not that unnormal to just not remember a birthday or not have anything written down. What do you guys think? Am I wrong about that? Obviously, if it's something like your significant other or your mom, you should probably know the birthday. I just think it's normal enough to not remember a friend's birthday. I don't know. I don't mean that in an uncaring way, it's just you didn't remember or you didn't have it written down. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.